The appeal for her was that she was very sexually inexperienced, found dating difficult, and was at the same time sexually frustrated. Current and former sex workers and sugar babies. What is the biggest difference in sex with a romantic partner versus sex for money favors? What's up, handsome viewer? Welcome back to another storytime with you boy Andrew. I was waiting all day for you to join me in today's storytime. Since you're already here, go ahead and like the video, then subscribe, so we don't miss any more storytimes together. If you don't, I'll send a Karen to your house to harass you about your dirty room. Anyways, let's get into the vid. The biggest difference is the amount of drugs everyone is on, at least in my experience. Have done a bit of cam work, private and public, and a bit of sugar work. I expect a lot of the same things out of a customer or sugar daddy as I would from a boyfriend. Respect, honesty, and understanding that I'm only human. I sugar babied for a former sugar baby who had been knocked up and married said daddy. She had me treat her like an absolute queen unless we were in the bedroom, and then I was basically a Gestapo agent to her. The first time I did it, I had to take former daddy's, deceased for a year, Viagra to even perform, but now I've got Pavlov's dick for roughness. Still enjoy being sweet more, but both work for me. I wasn't one, but friends with a sugar baby. She said it was actually easier than going on dates. A guy on a date would buy her a $30 meal and be pissy if she didn't want to kiss on a first date, but her guys usually just wanted to have a good time with a pretty woman at first anyway. A boyfriend would get possessive about everything of his time, space, money, and yet also want to possess everything of hers. She was expected to be flexible with her time, put up with his messes and stupid hobbies, give up her male friends, etc. But her guy friends just wanted the time they could get with her, didn't expect her to change her life for them. Plus, they'd give her hundreds to treat herself and sometimes thousands to pay her bills, whereas her boyfriends thought $10 of mums still in grocery store plastic deserved getting head. She was willing to practically do anything for her guys if she was at all up for it. This girl used to pay me to pretend to be her boyfriend around her parents. Chick was a militant lesbian feminist, but her folks paid for her rent and car and stuff, so she didn't want to lose that. She would pay me a couple hundred to talk to her dad about sports for about 2 hours twice a month. It was pretty nice. Ended up eating her mum's ass out one Christmas when we were the last two awake and very drunk on wine. The biggest difference is that you have to always enjoy the sex when you are getting paid. Like, yes, that feels amazing licking my armpit. Don't get me wrong, I can get past some stuff, and I can enjoy the sex for myself. I had a boyfriend before I started working and he would never eat me out. I'd asked him why and he would tell me it's not his thing. Fine, whatever. Even before I started working, the guys I slept with would never eat me out. It's just not their thing. It wasn't until I started working. Men would eat me out. And it feels amazing. I no longer have a boyfriend, but I'm fine with that. I feel that some of the sex I have with my clients was better than having sex with my ex, and I'm getting paid on top of it. BTW, I'm a woman. I actually signed up for a sugar daddy site as research for an article one was writing and kind of got sucked in. When you're broke and young, the idea of getting paid for work you're doing anyway sounds damn good. The first man I met with didn't work out. We didn't have any chemistry, so the sex was pretty blah, and it only happened once. The second was only a few years older than me, and it was just straight prostitution. He seemed to get off on handing me wads of cash after sex. But then he wanted to date and I wasn't interested, so I called it off. The third guy though. He was 24 years older than me, not bad looking, but not mind-blowingly hot, and sort of soft the way middle-aged men get. I was pretty apprehensive about whether it was going to be another no-go. I was so wrong. Best sex I've ever had, hands down, and definitely taught me some kinks I didn't know I had. We saw each other off and on for 3 years, even after the economy tanked and he couldn't afford to pay me. By that time, I loved him, not really in a romantic way, but still. There was a lot of affection between us, and we spent as much time bullcrapping as we did having sex. I only stopped seeing him when I met my now ex-husband, and that was the end of that particular career. Edit. Guys, I get it, many of you don't believe that's why I signed up. But here's the thing, I'm not ashamed of doing it, and if I'd known it was a thing an average woman could get into without having to, I don't know, hang around Hef or something, I would have considered it anyway. If I was so ashamed I needed to lie, I just wouldn't have commented in the first place. I was sort of an escort sugar baby, I don't know how to explain it. I was essentially a long-term escort, I'd see the same guy every week for months. Since I was always seeing the same guys, I was able to develop business relationships as opposed to romantic ones. I'd say the biggest difference is the lack of ability to get comfortable with the other person. One guy would stay the night with me in hotels, and I would wait for him to fall asleep to take my makeup off and wake up before him to put it back on, even after knowing him for months. I wanted him to get what he was paying for, which was me being made up and looking nice all the time. Something surprising, I guess, would be how nice the guys were. I was never asked to do anything out of my comfort zone and was always treated like a queen. Even the men that would just get a hotel to bang in for a few hours would always get up and get me a washcloth after we did the deed, stayed to chat for a bit, and usually gave me a gift as well as cash. This is going to sound odd, but I'm far more affectionate during sex with sugar daddies than I am with my boyfriend. Many older men want a sugar baby because they feel lonely, their relationships have fizzled out, and their children have grown up and moved away. So they turn to sugar babies not just to satisfy their sex drive, but to fulfill their need for intimacy and affection. When I have sex with a sugar daddy, therefore, my goal is to make him feel like I'm almost in love with him, as well as make him cum harder than he's ever cum in his life. T's far more gentle, there's a lot more kissing involved, and my focus is 100% on his desires, but I can orgasm from this kind of sex. Things are different with younger sugar daddies, under 40, they often do want sex more than affection. It seems like the only reason they want a sugar baby, rather than an escort, is because there's less stigma involved, so sex with them is more of a performance. When I'm with them, my focus is on being sexy as hell rather than loving and attentive. The sex is messier and kinkier, although so far I've never had anyone with any out there fetishes, it's mostly light moderate BDSM and anal. It's much more interesting, but I've never had my own orgasm from it. Sometimes there's post-sex cuddling, sometimes they want space. Almost every sugar daddy I've spoken to is dominant in the bedroom. Sex with my boyfriend is usually due to lust, because he is fine as hell, so it tends to be quicker and rougher. Rather than having to reassure him of my enjoyment and enthusiasm all the time, I can focus on myself more. Source: I'm a sugar baby. Let the slut shaming commence. I was a student, extremely broke, and had to pay a court fine or else face a warrant. I mentioned to a female friend that I was desperate for money and was having a hard time finding a job. She said that two of her friends had told her that they thought I was hot and said, presumably in jest, they'd pay money to hit that. Again, I was desperate, so I asked her if she'd tell them we could work something out. A few days later, I met up with Amy for a DVD and chill session, pre-Netflix, at her place. We hook up, I get paid, I pay my fee and avoid jail. Difference? I got relatively little pleasure out of it. I wasn't disgusted or feeling degraded, but I was focusing on her pleasure so much that I couldn't really enjoy much of the experience. It was a little stressful, honestly. I approached it like a work task more than a romantic encounter. How can I satisfy this client and leave them feeling like they had a positive encounter and got their money's worth? There was essentially no romance intimacy for me. Felt weird. The emotional disconnect is strange. Even when having sex with someone I don't love, the lust is usually in full effect, so there's still something there. I suppose if I had to do it regularly, I'd get used to it, but it made the experience much more surreal. Similarities? The end results. While I didn't get off, she did, so that's always a win in my book. The mechanics. She didn't ask me to do anything strange or say anything was off limits, so I went with my usual routine when with a woman. I only did it the one time, so I don't think I'd classify myself as a sex worker technically. Edit. I am a male. I guess I could have been more explicit about that originally. To answer some repeating questions, she was pretty average, I'd say a 5 out of 10. The appeal for her was that she was very sexually inexperienced, found dating difficult, and was at the same time, sexually frustrated. And to those asking how I was able to perform in that situation, it's a biological function, so I didn't have to do a whole lot. Candidly, I'm not exactly sure why there would be a problem achieving an erection, as I've never experienced ED before outside of truly excessive drinking. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the story time? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more story times.